Aloha, everybody, and welcome to part 11 of Banjo-Kazooie. We are in this temple, and the graphics, oh my god! I don't know why, when I recorded Banjo-Kazooie, a lot of the footage got all weird like that, especially in like the white areas like Freezeezy Peak and stuff. It's not a constant problem or anything, it's just, this is the only time it's really done this a lot in my recorded footage. You know, I record a lot of games. The Mega Man games, the Sonic games. And Banjo-Kazooie, for some reason, just keeps showing up with weird colors when I played the game, it looked totally fine. I don't know why that is, but, you know, it's not like it's destroying the entire quality of the whole video. And, you know. Yeah. Anyway, you gotta fart eggs into this little basket, and then the snake charmer will play his little flute, and then the snake will go high, because it's apparently a really, 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 really long snake. Look how big he is! You climb the snake, and the jiggy is right there, so use a ZA jump. And there you go. You got yourself one more jiggy for Gobi's family. So I'm only missing 3 jiggies at this point. The one that I unlocked from getting the golden statue rings from flying through them. The Jinjo jiggy, and the one that's inside the Banjo Sphinx. All of which I will be heading to right now. But first I'm going to stock up on eggs, because the jiggy that's in the Banjo Sphinx requires shooting eggs into statues. And I was starting to run low, so I just decided to, you know, backtrack and get some. Why not? Why not? But, the Banjo-Kazooie series, I don't really plan on doing the other games in the series. I don't plan on doing Tooie. I don't plan on doing Nuts and Bolts. Although I do like Grunty's Revenge for the GBA. I really do like Grunty's Revenge. I thought that was a pretty decent Banjo-Kazooie game. Controversial as I may be, but I actually liked it more than Banjo-Tooie. I know, it's a controversial statement. Tooie's a great game. But my problems with Tooie have always been about backtracking and having to go back to areas just to do this one little side quest that you probably could have been able to do in the beginning when you were there, you know? It's why I like Banjo-Kazooie over Tooie, and I understand why people like Tooie more than Kazooie. It's bigger, it's got more moves, it's got giant, freaking huge explorable worlds and whatnot. But, and maybe some better character development, better character writing, but, I just like the simplicity of Banjo-Kazooie. I like the fact that there's not much backtracking. I like the fact that it's more collecting and not so much story dragging the game down. Not that I don't think that happened in Banjo-Tooie, but yeah. So I have no plans to do Banjo-Tooie, not really. It's a fine game, but I haven't really played it since 2000, 2001 when the game came out. Whereas the first game I've replayed a whole bunch of times, and I just didn't like Tooie as much as the first game. That's just a silly thing, I believe. Grunty's Revenge is a lot like the original Banjo-Kazooie, only it has an isometric top-down viewpoint, sort of like Sonic Labyrinth. Oh! But, you know, it's a top-down Banjo-Kazooie game, where I felt there wasn't too much backtracking in that one, and the worlds weren't too huge, and it was just a nice GBA adventure that takes place in between Kazooie and Tooie, and it's pretty fantastic. Good GBA game. I would recommend that one. And then there's Nuts and Bolts, which some people, well, most people don't like. And hey, I gotta be honest, I'm one of them. Because Nuts and Bolts, the problem with Nuts and Bolts, 2 things. It is a car mission game, you know? It's this thing where you have to assemble cars like they're Legos, and you have to make flying helicopter cars, and cars that can carry a certain amount of weight of something, because you're supposed to carry things a lot in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and you're always getting blueprints for new machines and changing your machines and constantly going in these races, which rank do you, by the way. It's like, it's not enough that you win the race. You have to be really good at the race to get, like, gold or, like, the best record and stuff like that. There was a lot of trial and error going on in that game for me. Hey, here's Gobi! Let's bang on him again. Ah, that's it! I'm leaving this desert to find some peace and quiet. This is actually necessary to get a Jiggy in a future world, so you definitely want to get this guy, not just for the honeycomb, but because we may run into Gobi again. But there's all the musical notes, and the last honeycomb is, once again, I hit a switch behind one pyramid, it showed up in the middle of a cactus. And I'm going to try and fly in the middle of that cactus to get the honeycomb. But nuts and bolts, I just found it tedious. Like, the missions weren't fun to me. You know, I like racing games. I already gushed about Diddy Kong Racing before. That had Banjo in it. That was a fun game. But Nuts and Bolts isn't a good racer. It's a weird slow racer where you're constantly building cars and have to keep mixing and changing depending on the mission. And the worlds were huge, but there was nothing to do in them. So, ignoring the fact that we wanted our third platformer, and that's really the big disappointment of Nuts and Bolts. You know, they haven't made a game since 2000 on the N64. They hinted at a Banjo 3E, and then it's like, oh wait, now it's a car mission kind of game, and it's not a platformer. Of course we're gonna be disappointed. They could have made Nuts and Bolts after Banjo 3E, but to bring Nuts and Bolts to be the returning game, yes, it's a disappointment. I'm sorry. We have to be disappointed. We wanted our platformer. That's what Banjo-Kazooie is. It's a platformer. I'm not combining pieces of cars and carrying things and racing these stupid time trials. Not always. In Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, so that's kind of the disappointment. Sure, it looked good, but I didn't find it particularly fun. Nuts and Bolts is one of those rare games that I just didn't finish, you know? Most games I finish because I'm a weirdo like that. I have to complete a game, even if I don't like it. Sonic 06 included and stuff. And we have to go back to Freezeezy Peak, because now we have the running shoes. And we just have to go to where Boggy is. Anywho, my thing was, I got to the Coliseum world, right? And I got into the next mission in Coliseum world. I think it was like a race or something. I actually lost the race because my car sort of tipped over or it hit a rock or something. And when I lost and I knew I had to redo the race again, I was just like, I'm done. Like, I didn't finish Nuts and Bolts. I didn't want to finish Nuts and Bolts. I stopped playing it when I reached the Coliseum world. That's a sign of a bad game, guys, you know? Like, there are awful games which I hate, which are awful, that I've still finished, like Mega Man X6 and Superman 64. I finished Superman 64. I don't know why. I don't. But I did, back when I rented it, when I was a youngin' in 2000. I don't know why. Oh, by the way, I screwed up this mission because I fell in the ice because the control stick was hard to navigate with the camera. So he's like, oh, this is too easy. I'm giving up. So I had to redo the race. But Nuts and Bolts just bored me. It wasn't fun. That gameplay style wasn't great at all. The only fun I was having with the game was like that Clunjo minigame where you were having that 2D arcade side-scroller platformer thing, right? Where you're just sort of timing Clunjo's jumps in the arcade machine to like not fall in the pits or run into the spikes and stuff. I had more fun with that than I did with the actual main game. And the plot line, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything about the future games. I don't want to spoil how Banjo-Kazooie ends. But all I'm going to say is that its whole premise was that it realized it was a video game, you know? Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, they have like fourth wall moments where they break the fourth wall and they're like, get it? But it wasn't... Like, if you play Banjo-Kazooie, it's not going, oh, we're in a video game. We're collecting collectibles. Time to go to level 5, wink. But the whole premise of Nuts and Bolts' story was that they've retired from video games, and now they're back in video games, and the main character is like this log guy, this guy with a cape and like a jiggy head or a puzzle head or something. And he was like the head of video games or something, and he's like, we have to have the video game championships, and Banjo and Kazooie must battle Gruntilda in a game of games for the gaming championship. And it even starts off with this joke where like Banjo-Kazooie are racing Gruntilda to collect more collectibles than the other, and they're like, oh no, kids don't want to play this crap in the video games anymore. And I'm just like, ugh, The story sucks. It wasn't funny to me. It was just too meta, you know? It was too like, we're in a video game, get it? I don't know. I didn't like Nuts and Bolts at all. I appreciate the graphics, and I love the soundtrack. Showdown Town was a fantastic musical theme, and the orchestrations of, like, Spiral Mountain and, like, the museum level, which was a rehash of a lot of the old themes for Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2. You know, it's all interesting, but at the end of the day, guys, the game has to be fun. And car missions, they are not fun. They were not fun to me. I hated those missions. I didn't care. You know, it's like the boring parts of Grand Theft Auto without being able to shoot people, you know? Like, driving missions in Grand Theft Auto, I don't know. If I'm gonna be in a car, make it a racer. Make it a fun, fast-paced racer, like Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Mario Kart, whatever. I didn't have that competitive racing feel that Nuts and Bolts probably should have had. It was a weird thing where I like Legos, but I don't like this. I'm sorry. So, you know. Nuts and Bolts wasn't very good to me. But anywho, now that we've gotten the Jiggy of Freezeezy Peak, the Gruntilda Freezeezy Peak Jiggy, the Gobi's Valley Gruntilda Jiggy, we can now move on to our next world with this musical note door up here. So this area, I can actually go to the higher areas later, but I have to wait until I make the water raise higher. As it is, I can only keep swimming through this little tunnel over here to find our next puzzle area to assemble the gateway to the next world.
Hey, Banjo, you're looking glum. It must be hard being so dumb.
Oh, Grunty, you're so wacky. Hey, at least Nuts and Bolts made Grunty rhyme again. Banjo-Tooie, they let her rhyme for like 2 seconds, and then they're like, no, stop rhyming! Oh, fine, I'll stop rhyming. And I was like, damn it! But I digress. Here is our next world, ladies and gentlemen. And it is... Mad Monster Mansion! And as a kid, I always thought this was going to be like the last world when I came up to it. Mainly because it's a spooky level set in a haunted area, you know, with like gravestones and ghosts and stuff. And, of course, the main villain of the game is Gruntilda the Witch. And I assumed the witch would be associated with the haunted world, with the spooky Halloween-themed level, you know? So I was sort of like, oh man, I must be getting real close to the end of the game. The truth is, there are 3 worlds left. There's Mad Monster Mansion, Rusty Bucket Bay, and then Click Clock Wood. And once we finish those 3 worlds, we're finally going to be nearing the end of this game. So, yeah. Banjo-Kazooie has a lot, and I mean a lot, of content. You know, I can blow through a game like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on the Super Nintendo in 3 parts. It's a very simple 2D beat-em-up. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's a good game. It's a good series of videos I did. Although in the first part I mistake Angel Grove, and people raged at me because they're like, you're not a Power Rangers fan! But I digress! Banjo-Kazooie is huge. You can be playing this game a lot. It's got a lot of replayability. It's got a fun atmosphere. And man, is there a lot to do. Man, there's a lot of collectibles to get. And Banjo-Tooie is much bigger than this game, if you can believe it. And if destroying this webbing with eggs, you will find another cauldron, which will take us to a shortcut we haven't actually activated yet. So, yeah. And if we climb the top of the witch's head, well, guess what? We're gonna find one more appearance with Gruntilda. Let's see what she has to share. The disgusting Gruntilda has spider pancakes for breakfast. Yeah. Then she usually has slug stew for dinner. Yuck. Wartbags then finishes with rat sorbet for dessert. How horrid. I love that she calls her sister that. Wartbags! God damn it, Gruntilda, you're not so nice. You try to make yourself look like the good witch here, you know, the good, happy fairy lady. But you got a nasty streak, just like your sister. Who is your mother? Who is this mother that gave birth to not only these two, but as we later find out in Banjo-Tooie, the other two, too? Two. Because I would like to meet that mother. I would. She seems crazy. And here is Mad Monster Mansion's entrance. I didn't come here before because, again, the world was not unlocked, and there's nothing over here. So, now we're here. And Brentilda is in this room. She is hiding behind a gravestone, so if we want her help for later, let's talk to her again. Did you know Wartbags keeps a loogie-filled hanky in her pocket for luck? That's gross. I've also seen my sister cuddling a huge sweaty baboon in bed at night. Yeah. Well, you know. She's really proud of her broomstick. It's a top-of-the-range Lordmaster 2000. Oh, you know, some people have teddy bears, and Gruntilda went a step above. She got an actual furry animal, so she cuddles a sweaty baboon at night. Why not? It's like me and my Eggman doll. I mean, it's like not me and anything, because I'm manly. Before you go into Mad Monster Mansion, I want to leave as Mumbo's transformation, so I'm going to smash this gate open, and that way, when I come out as Mumbo's transformation, I can go to that area that I just opened up. So always smash the gate before you go into the next world. And we'll go to it in Part 12. See you then.